there's another example in mythology of this, and that pertains to the figure known as La Belle d'un Sans Mercy, the beautiful lady without mercy. It's found in mythology, it's found in history. It's also known as the femme fatale. And that is another example down through history of magnacide, in which the Grail Knight or the servant of God, somebody of great power and purity, you see, is brought down, brought low, is undermined and seduced and killed. And always, for the most part, the female goes back to Tristram and Isolde. I mean, Samson and Delilah, the thing just goes on and on and on. There's even little hints of it in other stories in the Bible, but it's huge in mythology, right? It is the need to basically seek relief by the destruction, the bringing low of a godly or virtuous man. Now, these are individual instances of it. But what's it got to do with our times? Again, this syndrome, magnacide, is absolutely to be understood as the core root of what we call feminism. Now, we already know that feminism is something that went off in the wrong direction from the start. Women do not want to critique women. Womankind does not want to critique womankind. But that's its job. Women should have been pulling the feminists up, right? Leading them in a totally opposite direction than the way it went. That's their job. That's their duty. To be realizing that the problem with women is they don't admire or respect men. That would break that would be the right way to go. They give birth to the male child, but what are they doing? They're teaching their daughters to grow up to hate men right now as we speak, and they're not even breeding men anymore. They're breeding soy boys and betas and bisexuals and simps. Beautiful job. And there's not a single woman out there critiquing the female world for all of its aberrations. It's not a job that women even know what the beginning, and yet they're the ones who should be the custodians of it. The real goddess worship would be that. And we don't have it. We have crone worship. And it's obvious that it's happening because look at the spawn. Look what they're breeding. Yet nobody's indicting them. No woman tells another woman what's going on. Nobody's standing up. The feminism went off down the wrong direction from the start. It's not a goddess tradition at all. It's a crone. Now, why do I call it that? Because another podcast we've done, I'm pointing out that the crone is a very special thing. It's not to be identified with a goddess. The crone is the older woman who bred the male hatred to the younger women and spread the lie, the hag, right, the witch, who spread the lie that of paternity to deceive men about paternity, to make men believe that they had no role in birthing children and that this was something that the gods intervened. And that was where your immaculate conception nonsense came from. For anybody who thinks this is lunacy, it's right there in the sacred scriptures of the West. That you're impregnated by a wind or a spirit or an angel or a beam of light or a dove or a strange being. Or it just fucking happens. And so for many generations, men did not know. But it wasn't the younger women who came up with this. It was the older women who wanted this, the midwives, the hags. And that's why down through mythology, down through the history of mythology and storytelling, the old hag woman, or the hook nose, the old witch, that's where that came from. Because later this was busted. And it was only able to be instantiated because of the long time, the 9 months that it takes to birth a child. We're animals, it happens in days and weeks. So it wasn't automatically understood by many men that there's a direct connection between having sex with a woman and then her birthing. It just wasn't. And in the meantime, when they asked, when the curiosity was there, the women had broached them, had come out with this lie that the origin of the child was divine. And when the males noticed that there was a resemblance in a son or a young daughter to themselves, the women got round that by saying, no, it's not you, chump, that they look like, right? It's the ancestors, because the spirits of the ancestors impregnated me. And that's how they got away with that. And you only had to mention ancestors. Oh, and that just mystified everybody. Because that was fucking holy. That was really, really sacred. I'm abbreviating, but you can get into a lot of other things. I've done this in the premium sections of Unslaved. We got into all of this. So the idea that it wasn't me that did the impregnating, it was a spiritual mystifying thing, and it was the ancestors who came to my consort or the women of the village, and they give birth, and that's why some of the kids look like me, and I believe it. But what is some result of all of this? It's the deification of the female. She is the one in consort with the divine, not me. She is the one who is the gateway. The word Babylon and baby mean gateway, from the gateway. Baby means from the gateway, from the woman's womb. Remember the symbol of the encircling serpent. Many of the womb symbolism comes from this. Now, for those generations when women had this power, that's recorded in the limbic realms of the brain, atavistically. It's in the atavistic memory of every woman and can be stimulated again, can be kindled. To do it, it's not easy. But this is where your world controllers know exactly what they're doing. They've been working on it for generations. And in the 20th century, it's ramped up like you can't even believe. And no woman has even noticed it or stood against it. In fact, most of them just fall completely. Soon as that's it, they're gone. They fall right into the programming is so good that most women are completely under its control. They don't know anything what the real goddess tradition was all about, or why it was suppressed, or why patriarchy arose. Patriarchy arose in revenge. It had a cause that no feminist will ever admit. It was a retaliatory exercise. But you can't put that part in. That destroys feminism to the core. When you understand why the patriarchy arose, what was its actual real cause? The cause was when men found out that they'd been lied to. Naturally, women were then forced into secondary positions and kept there and kept up. They wanted to be observant. So this is how towns and villages started to be created. And when women lost their rights, because man now said, we're not going to be fooled again. Oh, and these old bitches, these old hags, right, we're onto them as well. And that's when the stories, the vilification of the old woman, the witch living at the end of the street and all of this came into our mythology. Where do you think that ever came from? The Hansel and Gretel, right? The Snow White. Where did all this come from? So when it was discovered by men that this lie had occurred, there was a retaliatory action, and the priesthood now took over. And the men said, we will now become the new priests. We're going to blow these women out. They lied to us about their connection to the gods. They have no connection to no gods. We've been had, boys. And we will appropriate their power. And that's why the male priesthood arose. You don't have to like it. I'm just explaining the history of it. So the robes, the attire, the regalia, the symbolism, the words, the terms like cardinal and all the rest of it. They said, we're taking it over. We're stepping into your place. We'll be rulers of the city, the Ketas. And that's how a person can back engineer it like we're doing, like I've done in my goddess and divination and the goddess, right? It used to be part of Origins and Oracles. You can still watch it on Unslaved. divination in the goddess tradition. We've been doing this for decades now. And we'll link up to all of it for people to check this out.